Okay, folks, here's a quick review of the Bossk figure that was produced by Hasbro as a part of the Star Wars The Black Series line of 6-inch scale action figures. Okay, the articulation joints move pretty well. Bossk has articulation in the head, shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the waist, the hips, the knees, and the ankles. The elbows are single jointed and the knees are double jointed. The wrists appear to have a hinge joint in them. The feet move up and down, and there's also an ankle pivot joint. And I also discovered that there's an articulation joint in the area below the knees where and I'm guessing these are detonators that you see are located. Bossk's jaw also has articulation, and that allows you to pose him with his mouth open or closed. The hip joint could pose in such a way that the figure can do splits if these gray straps weren't restricting them. And also of note, the head articulation is restricted due to the collar of Bossk's uniform being on the high side. But in spite of the articulation restrictions, I still feel that you can get a good range of posing options with this figure. Okay, paint apps were done well for the most part. I did discover some paint slop on his left forearm and also near his right elbow, but I didn't really find anything else beyond that. Now, unfortunately, the head on my figure has a defect near the back of his head where it was misassembled, but at least it's in the back of the figure's head, so it's not in a highly visible area. So let me pause here, zoom in, and I'm going to give you a closer look as to what Bossk looks like. Okay. And as an added treat for you, I thought I'd go on ahead and give you a close-up of what Bossk looks like with his mouth gaping open. Okay, Bossk only came with one accessory, so let me take a break here and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, and here's his lone accessory, his blaster rifle. Now, as you can see, this does have some good detailing on it. Bossk can only hold this in his left hand, as his right hand is molded in the open position, so I'm assuming that he is supposed to be left-handed. I did discover that it does take a little bit of finagling to get him to hold this weapon in his left hand, but once that rifle is placed in there properly, it is a firm grip. Okay, what I'm going to do now is a quick 360 of Bossk for you and let you see what he looks like from all sides. So here he is from the front. Okay, here he is from the left-hand side. Okay, here he is from the rear. And I'm going to pause here for just a moment and show you where that defect was on my figure. And unfortunately, this does have a tendency to mess up the jaw articulation quite a bit. And I was disappointed to discover that. Okay, moving on. Here is Bossk from the right-hand side. And finally, here we are once again facing forward. So overall, I have to say that I like this figure. This is a nice likeness to how Bossk appeared in The Empire Strikes Back. There are good posing options, especially with being able to pose his mouth open or closed. But it is a bit frustrating that the uniform straps hinder the hip articulation on this figure. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I kind of think that it might have been better to have these straps as part of the figure mold, as opposed to what we got with them being made of this plastic material and not part of the figure mold. But anyway, continuing on, I was also disappointed to see that the head on my figure was slightly misassembled, but at least the defect is in an area that's not highly visible. So taking all that information into account, I feel that Bossk should get a good bordering on great recommendation from me. In spite of the problems that I did run into with this figure, I still feel that this is a nice figure to have alongside your 6-inch scale Boba Fett, and I'm sure it will continue to look great alongside the other bounty hunters that we saw in The Empire Strikes Back when they are eventually released in this scale. Okay, so on that note, take care and stay tuned for my next review. Have a good one.